Namaste, my friends. My name is Victor, and welcome to my YouTube channel, which is all about helping people navigate their awakening process. And today's video is going to address the upcoming full moon, which is, I believe, on June 20th of 2016. And I don't always make moon reports, but I just felt guided to do it this time because there's quite a few interesting things that I believe a lot of you will be experiencing, and I believe I can maybe perhaps shed some insight to help you make the most of these transits this upcoming moon. Again, full moons typically really represent an acceleration of energy, an acceleration of your awakening process as a whole. But even within this acceleration, sometimes there are key themes that tend to be the focal point. And in this video, I will address these themes that very well may be coming up for you. The first one I want to talk about is a lot of you guys are coming into more of an awareness of the actual nuts and bolts manifestation process. There's a lot of airy-fairy silliness out there which really paints an inaccurate picture of what it really takes, because though it's easy and you can, in a sense, have whatever you want, there is oftentimes a lot of internal and external work involved. And because you are awakening, you're getting glimpses of your highest potential. Many of you are shooting for the stars, which you should, but there might be a lot more in the way than you perceive. Because oftentimes when these insights, these excitements of future manifestations that you have a resonance with, that you believe you might be able to acquire down the line, there's a very pure state of being when you're having these waves of insight and excitement. And it may seem like, wow, this is really possible. This is going to be quite effortless. But then these moons come, these new moons, full moons, very, upcoming days will transpire, and you'll be shown just how much you are harboring within your consciousness that stands directly in the way of you ever achieving that. And many times these moons reveal that to you. So what I'm hinting at is that usually one of the last stages of this manifestation blockage removal process is the awareness of beliefs you have within yourself that contradict where you're trying to go. And these beliefs are not what you would expect. They're very illogical beliefs that have no real logic to them. But the way they occur usually is when you're a real young child. You experience something quite traumatic. Even if it's not on the surface traumatic, it affected you emotionally. Perhaps you were going through a growth spurt and someone pointed out something on your shirt and you had an intense emotional reaction. As a child, we're not taught how to deal with these situations. So oftentimes we develop these little silly beliefs which are easier to do, much more instant, quick acting than to actually face fully the experience that has fallen into our lap on our life path. And as you get to where you're really, the real potential, if you actually manifest in these down the line dreams, you will be faced with these illogical beliefs. And they'll come to you in many different ways, oftentimes through synchronicity. Many times life experience will sort of have you reenacting these past experiences in a way. The emotions are similar, perhaps with the same person. But now you get a chance to see, I normally react to this in this way. And I've been doing this my entire life. You'll start to see it. And you'll see, wow, it makes no sense to do that. And yet there might be some momentum, like you're going to want to do it. You don't really know any other way. There's this neuroplasticity, this path of entrainment that you're used to. So even though you're aware of it, you find you're still kind of maybe doing it. But this is sort of a sign that you are breaking away from this ingrained pattern, which does stand directly in the way of you manifesting something, whatever you really want. This is more of an advanced manifestation train of thought. I know a lot of you guys are experiencing relationship issues. As I mentioned, these moons are really just an acceleration of the awakening process. And what does that imply? What does that mean when I say an acceleration of the awakening process? That means that you are going faster towards your ideal self. We kind of pace ourselves. Sometimes we just sit there and do nothing and we rest. Other times we're kind of trudging along. during these transits, we tend to we start sprinting. And as we sprint, we just face more of our karmic baggage in a more rapid way. And so what does that mean? Again, anything in the way of you becoming your true core self must come to light for you to deal with. And oftentimes you have built your relationships out of unconsciousness, and you will start to see people differently. You might reenact certain, perhaps, thematic arguments that you've had in the past with certain people. They might come up and you find yourself in this exact same argument that you thought you moved past, but you really haven't. Stuff like that, just a relationship stuff is very well going to come up for you. And just be very conscious, be very aware, and be, most importantly, honest with yourself. Say, is my reaction to this person really about what this person said or is doing, or is it really about myself? And it's hard because we're so reactive. And these emotional interactions are so intense, and it's very, very hard not to get sucked in to our typical pattern of reacting with these situations that are somewhat familiar to us. So just be very present and just do your best. Do your best to learn as much as you can about yourself in these conflicts. In addition, you might just be having your own issues come up. They might not have anything to do with other people. You just might be having dreams, synchronicities, finding yourself slipping into old patterns that you thought you had put away. And just it's time to kind of clean up your act. It's time to stop exhibiting behaviors that conflict with your highest aspirations of your true core self. I have nothing much more to add about that, but just be aware of that. And again, be very honest with yourself. Don't ever blame anybody for anything. Don't ever blame how you feel on anything outside of you. It is all about you. Take ownership of it. Everything, not just most things, everything is about you. You, in your purity, are completely neutral to everything. Everything outside of you, no matter how wild or how awesome or how dark it is, has no built-in meaning. You choose how you frame it and how, therefore, it affects you emotionally. Use your own power. Use your power to decide how you want your world to have a relationship with you, how you want to interpret things. That's all for your choosing. And if you're interpreting something in a way that makes you feel uncomfortable or negative in any way, then I would look at that, because your true self would never choose to do such a thing. And this last theme is kind of on par with what I was just speaking about. It has to do with your behaviors. Something you might be finding yourself a little bit more addictive, a little bit more compulsive in your actions. Your ego mind might be sped up a lot, and you might be wanting lots of things kind of all at once. You might be overstimulating yourself. This is a very common thing as we get kind of pulled in by these intense moon energies. It's very it can be uncomfortable. It sometimes can be amazing and blissful, but many times it's an acceleration of our process, and our minds know that there are little addictive little behaviors out there that can kind of like take us out of the moment, and like you can like distract yourself with whatever little thing you happen to be, whatever little habit you might have. But you might find these habits are really becoming obvious as like bad habits. You might be noticing an increase in the consequences to these bad habits. Perhaps you have a sweet tooth, and normally when things get rough, you have a couple of cookies. But you might be finding you're eating a box of cookies and just going ape shit on these cookies day after day after day after day, where it's like, whoa, something has got to give. And yet there's this momentum. You can't stop yourself. So understand, a lot of times when you feel, when you're aware of something you're doing that you don't really like, you would rather not do, and yet you can't stop it. Sometimes there is a period where that's just kind of how it goes, but the energy will settle and you will kind of part from it, and then have a much easier time, maybe in a few days after the moon passes, where you can kind of like, okay, I'm ready to kick this habit for good. Okay, so don't judge yourself during any of these moon energies, any of these symptoms, any of these manifestations, any of the intensity you're feeling. Don't judge yourself. The moons are supposed to shake you up. They're supposed to shake you to your very core, because that is what you actually are, and it's time to start being that core. And as you get shooken up, all this stuff that's, again, blocking your beautiful light, you got to deal with, you got to get rid of, you got to stop acting from. So these moons are potent, but they're so awesome because they will lift you up to greater heights. They will take you into it. Even though it might seem like a bunch of negative stuff is happening, you're actually taking great strides towards your future self. So don't be hard on yourself. Don't judge yourself. Know that it's all for a grander purpose that your higher self is orchestrating for the purpose of you becoming the strongest, best, most amazing, loving version of yourself and having a life so immaculate that you can't even begin to fathom it with your little mind. Your thinking mind has no business even attempting to imagine that which you want. Your higher mind will always, always over-deliver.